Hello and welcome back to Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. Thank you very much for joining me in today's video for the third part of my review of Parallel 42 software / add-ons. Well, they are software, but they're add-ons. In the first part, I took a look at Flow Pro, of which I definitely recommend Flow Essentials. Flow Pro, perhaps, it depends on the person. Your mileage may vary as to whether or not you think it is worth it for you. It was worth it for me, but I think that for the price, the best value is Flow Essentials. In the last video, I took a look at Chaseplane, which I highly recommend for everybody. And in fact, you will be seeing me use both of those products in today's video too. Just make sure that you take a look at the compatibility and any issues that they have, because I believe Chaseplane is an experimental build and I have found a couple of bugs that I'm sure in time will be fixed. But for example, if you are using VR, do not buy Chaseplane right now for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. I believe there is a complete incompatibility, but again, that is all on their website. Today, as the name suggests, I'm going to be taking a look at perhaps the least known of their main products, and that is a product known as Typical Weather. And as it says on the tin, it brings in typical weather to the flight sim. Now I'll explain more about how that works once we are started. We are going to start today off at Echo Golf Tango November, Enstone, which is somewhere in or just south of Warwick, sort of going towards, in fact I could just zoom out and show you. So there's Warwick, south of Warwick, somewhere just across from Milton Keynes and Oxford. For those of you who are Formula 1 fans, yes, there is a Formula 1 team based at Enstone, as there is also one in Oxford, Williams, Milton Keynes, Red Bull, Banbury, Haas. This is the Formula 1 area. This area right here, going down towards, all the way down to McLaren in Woking. So anyway, that does not matter. I will be moving around, and this is not about flying aircraft, so I may fly aircraft very, very roughly in this video. But anyway, let's get started. I have tried this out. I've had a look at it, seen what it is like, and I think that it definitely has its uses, which I will be showing you after the intro. Okay, for some reason Chaseplane does not appear to be working, but it really does not matter. That's not the point of today's video. Microsoft Flight Simulator sometimes causes issues. Anyway, as I said, we are going to be looking at Typical Weather. So let me bring it up with Flow. So this is the symbol for Typical Weather. You can find it up here as well. And also, for the first time ever, I found this sidebar, or this toolbar has arrows on either side, because I have so many add-ons and settings, which is really odd. But anyway, this is Typical Weather. Once you have installed it, you'd need to activate it, follow the instructions, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to pin this just so that it is easy to see. So currently we have the typical weather or the live weather, sorry, not typical weather, live weather for Microsoft Flight Simulator, which is being pulled in by Microsoft Flight Simulator. So this is the exact weather currently when I am recording this video, and it does look about right. Yes, that does look about right. So let's say, for example, I wanted to go through and select a different weather. Now normally the way you would do it is you go up here, select the weather, or if you have something like a Flow, you'd go over to the weather and select the weather. So instead of live weather, you'd have whichever weather we currently have. Now you'll notice that we now have 42 TW engines. So that's Parallel 42's Typical Weather engine now available to us. Now we do not have to click it through here. All we have to do is press Enable Typical Weather. And you're going to see that this changes what we've got. So, in fact, let me change out the settings. Settings all exactly as I want them to be for now. So, you can see currently it is transitioning, and it's going to give us some weather that is currently, it says, so time of day, day 23, so it's January 23rd at 1600 Zulu, wind 260 at 15 knots, 10 statute miles of visibility, light thunderstorms with some drizzle, scattered clouds at 3500, temperature 8, dew point 3, altimeter 1010 millibars. That's clearly not the weather we had earlier today. And if I click that, or if I hover over that, it tells me that that has been interpolated from stations Echo Golf Bravo Echo, which is Coventry Airport, Echo Golf Tango Kilo, which I think is Kidlington, and Echo Golf Victor November, which I do not know which airport that is. So what it has done is it has looked through the patterns of weather that you would get on the 23rd of January in the UK at this time in this area. What were the Met reports in the past? And it has come up with an average to say this is the sort of weather you typically get. Now, if we go to the settings, you can see that we have an auto update of weather, which will refresh and transition weather every 10 minutes. We have thickness-based fading, which I will show you a little bit later, and variable duration transitions, which I will also show you later. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select some time, select the time of day. We'll leave that down here, and let me change the time of day. So what would it be like, let's say, early in the morning? You'll notice, or you'll see in a few seconds, this will start coming up with a new weather. There it is. So 700 hours Zulu. Oh, there goes the thunderstorm. 250 at 12. Clouds at 2200, 8 degrees, dew point 4, 1002. So it's given me a different weather. And this is what typical weather is all about. It gives you, as it says on the tin, typical weather for your area. So I could fly around and say, well, this is what I'm going to get. So where is this useful? You might be thinking, because you could get live weather, and that would just give you whatever weather you have live over 24 hours. That's quite useful. You could get something like active sky, and then you have loads of historical weather. Well, the difference between live weather, that historical weather, and this is that if you want to be flying in a typical condition without having to go day by day to try and find those conditions that you want to fly in, you can do it with this. For example, in the UK, rain is quite common. A lot of rain historically falls around April. So there could be plenty of days. There could be an entire year where there isn't much rain in April. Let's say I wanted to fly around in some drizzly, typically English, murky weather with mild weather. So maybe I'm looking at, I want to fly around in weather that's about 12 to 15 degrees, maybe slightly colder with some rain. All I have to do is say, well, if I go to April and maybe around, I don't know, 10 a.m, 13th of April, we should get rain. There it is. Because it's typical British weather. Now, in real life, on the 13th of April, there may not have been rain. There may not have been rain on the 10th of April, or the 12th of April, or the 20th of April. But because this is typical weather, you get exactly what you would expect from Britain in April. Say I wanted some really, really warm weather. I know that for Britain, I can take a look at maybe mid-August, late August. Let's go 25th of August or something like that. Takes a bit of time as it goes through it. And it does have a bit of, it will judder sometimes, just a little. He's trying to go through the transition here. There it goes. Right, let's try and get that over to... Come on. Not the 6th. No, apparently it's doing July 29th. There we go. August 28th, 10 AM. Let's see what we've got. What sort of weather do we have? We also have a lot of rain in August. Okay, it's 19 degrees. And we have some drizzle with some broken clouds and some overcast at 12,600. Now let's say I did want to fly this. I can just go around and say, yep, sure, let's fly this particular run. Now this is probably going to be a bad takeoff, simply because of where the wind is blowing in from. It's a very rough takeoff that we're about to go through. Just try and lift up. As I said, I'm not really looking at the flying today. There we are. Going to get a bit of buffeting over the tree lines, but we'll climb out up and above. Really, I guess I can... No, I'll leave the pitot heat on. And now I've just got typical weather for this area for this time of year. And that's pretty useful to me, in my opinion. If I wanted to do some VFR flying in typical weather conditions, I can. There we go. We're out of the rain, and I can probably do that. Have a look outside. In fact, this is sort of a blessing that chase plane isn't working, because you cannot do this with chase plane without switching chase plane off. And there is some typical weather for the UK in this area at this sort of this time of year. That's quite cloudy, actually. Some nice pockets over there that we could fly in and around. Okay, let's say we want... Let's have a look at what the weather is like on August the 24th. What sort of weather are we going to get? Now, this is going to be interesting, because we might have a change in pressure, we're going to have a change in temperatures, we're going to have a change in clouds and winds and everything. So it is going to be perhaps a little bit more difficult to fly. And as you can see, we are currently going through a transition of rain, winds, and we are heading into this sort of cloud coverage, which should be potentially a little bit better to fly in. Now, I will say it is quite windy up here. 40 knot winds, which I suppose are also somewhat typical for the UK. We do have very windy days. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'll go for a typical maybe mid-January, and you'll see that the winds will be quite high. Now, you'll notice through the transition, some areas you can see it transitioning. Other areas you may not notice. There we go. That has now transitioned to, or whatever this weather is. So if I wanted to fly around in this sort of weather, I can. Great. So I do not want that. I want some milder weather, some heat. I would say, let's go September I was going to say mid-September, but it's stuck on the 13th now for now. There we go. Slightly better weather. Still drizzle because it is the UK. But that is somewhat better weather. And this is what typical weather can provide. And I think it's useful for if you want to fly around. Oh dear. If you want to fly around VFR conditions or even IFR conditions at low altitude. That is where I think this comes in handy the most. I'm actually trying to find decent weather, so I've got to think about when is the weather relatively decent in the UK. Maybe 3 p.m. on July 21st. Let's go ahead and do that then. We'll go 3 p.m. July. No, that's thunderstorms. We do not want thunderstorms. Oh dear. So one thing we could do is, I'm not sure how to stop the transition. That's one thing I'm still trying to work out. Notice this goes backwards, but it does not go forwards. It's interesting that this does not go forwards, it only goes backwards. Let's have a look at what July the 19th gives us. October has reasonable-ish weather. Lots of drizzle. Again, typical UK. So if you want to fly around in the UK, you're going to be you are going to end up with drizzle. There is no way around that simple fact. There really isn't. Probably should put the props down a bit. Running at the firewall the entire time. But at least it looks fairly good. Yeah, that's a pretty decent set of weather. Decent typical weather for the UK. Now, of course, I'm in the UK, and for me it's a lot easier to know when there is good weather. So I can always say, right, I want to fly on day XYZ, I know what the weather was, I live here. I know that what the weather is in various parts of the United Kingdom. I can fly it, and I can fly at the time of day that I want. But what if I was flying in a different country? So, for example, let's go to... Where should we go? Where should we go for a test here? I know. Let's... First off, we'll go... Let's go to the main menu, and we'll go over to... Tell you what, let's go to Japan, shall we? And there's Mount Fuji somewhere around here. There it is, and there should be an airport. Is that the airport that's what I'm after? I believe it is. Yes. Okay. Romeo Juliet Alpha Tango, or that one. No, that's a helipad. Golf Oscar. Let's do that, and let's not do live conditions for now. Let's just say clear skies. Nice and simple, clear skies. Let's just take off from that airfield. Great. So it's going to load up this airfield. I really want to be taking off. I've just noticed there's a forest there, and that looks very, very close. That looks far too close to the airport to be real, but oh well. Wrong time of day. That's fine. Flo will handle this for me. There it is. Let's just go to the daytime. Excellent. So, this is clearly not clear skies. What is going on here? What is actually going on here? I have no idea. That is not what I told it to do. Also, I have no idea why that stopwatch keeps coming up, but there we go. I think chase plane might be working now. No, chase plane is still broken. Fine. Okay, so apparently it's still giving me typical weather. I did not ask for that. But let's switch it off for now. There we go. Now we're back with clear skies. So that's the standard preset. Now, if I switched on typical weather and it's building up whatever weather it is, I have other options. So we have atypical weather. Say you wanted something that definitely is not around for this region in January around this time of day. So I want fair weather. I'll click that and it will give me fair weather. Now, do I see any possible use of this weather over the standard Microsoft Flight Simulator weather? In all honesty, not really. It's fairly similar. It's fairly similar weather, so I'm not really fussed about that. That's the live weather once again. Or I could pick random weather. And there you go. It has given me this weather to fly in. 19 degrees, 12 degrees, dew point. That's fairly warm, I would say, for January in this region. If we go to typical weather, that's a bit more like it. 11 degrees, dew point 0. And so on January the 23rd, this is a sort of weather we have. So it's fairly, I mean, it's reasonable weather to fly in. There's the mountain. I mean, okay, it's hidden away, but I would say that is reasonable weather to be flying around in. Nothing too untoward there. So if I wanted to fly around in this sort of weather, there it is. It's ready for me. Say I wanted to fly around in some pretty poor weather. Well, I think perhaps earlier in the morning, I'm expecting possibly some fog or that sort of similar. Why is that in... That looks like that is in the trees. Those trees are not right. In fact, it's given me lovely weather here. This is not the weather I was expecting. This is great weather as it's transitioning in. But I guess this is showing the use and the power of this particular product. And that weather that it has just given me is that's pretty good weather. I would say that is really, really good weather. Okay. Say I wanted, let's go later in the year and we'll probably get the fog and the hazy weather that I'm thinking of, perhaps around April time. Maybe March, possibly. But see, the good thing is I do not have to go through every single day looking for a specific type of weather. I know that the weather is roughly going to be this at this point in time, so that is what we get. So here we go, we've got that. Let's go over to May. What do we get? We have some rain. Very low clouds. Well, somewhat low clouds, not very low. But we do have some rain. Slightly warmer temperatures. Go over to June. We're going to get some much warmer temperatures. 24 degrees. High overcast clouds. Lovely. We'll go over to July. So on and so forth. I can just pick whatever I want. There we go. In July we end up with some hazy weather. So it's raining, it's hazy, but there are scattered clouds at 34,500 feet. So we can say, okay, I could fly around in this sort of weather. That looks that's great. Now, if I were to perhaps let's pick July 14th now, are we going to get similar weather? Not quite, but it's still raining. We have very low cloud at 400 feet. It isn't quite haze, it's just thick cloud. Let's go. No, I have no idea why that does not go forward. July 13th, what do we get? Are we going to have similar-ish weather? Again, overcast. No rain. No rain this time, but we have overcast conditions. July 11th. So we know that this is the time of year where we're probably going to get a fair amount of rain, low clouds, and the like. And that is exactly what I'm getting, so I know what I'm looking for. Now let's go over to August. Let's see what we get. Low clouds again, quite warm, no winds. That is what August weather is like, and this is a sort of thing that I think is really useful. Let's go to do a takeoff now. I should be able to take off fairly easily in this. Not sure why just going to do a quick kick on both of these because I think it wasn't set up properly. There we go, that's running a little bit better. Immediate gear up because of the trees. Those trees are a little bit too close to the airfield, I think. But look at this. We are now. We have this low cloud that we could climb above if we wish to, or we can just try and fly below. In fact, let's go climb above. Let's go climb above this, shall we? Try and do a 90 knots climb out. Do a slight circle. All right. So yes, this is the advantage, I think, of this sort of this product. Now, what are the disadvantages? Well, I think that if you are trying to fly jets, you are going to be moving quite quickly. So one of the things that I'm going to do is I'll go over here, I'm going to switch on auto update weather. Because you're going to be moving fairly quickly, what is going to happen is you'll have the auto update weather, say every 10 seconds or so, which is fine. But in doing so, the weather transitions might be a little bit more jarring. And the reason for that is going to be simply because there's a racetrack around here somewhere. It's going to be simply because you are going too fast. And so, for example, let's say you're doing, I don't know, 280 knots. You're covering what? Nearly 50 miles every 10 minutes? Or thereabouts. 300 knots, you're doing 50 miles every 10 minutes. This is bad weather to be flying in this area, because there are mountains in this area. I suppose it gives you a bit of a challenge. Fly without trying to hit a mountain. That's your aim. But yes, so if you are flying a jetliner, you're going to be covering 50 miles every 10 minutes at 300 knots. And depending on where you are in the world, those 50 miles could be quite a significant That could be quite a significant change in weather. And because of that, you're going to see a sudden transition. I do not think that is ideal in the slightest, just like this weather. This is not ideal. Worst part is I know there are mountains around. So I'm going to just keep climbing in a circle. Probably the best I can do. Just continue. I mean, I can see the ground still. That's a good thing. Yes, I can still see the ground. Although it is now disappearing away from me. I'm just circling over that spot, whatever it is, as best as I possibly can. And a fairly sharp turn. Back down to... Yep. Fairly sharp. Still trying to climb. To pull out of the turn a little. There we go. I think we're just going to keep going like this, so I'm going to actually change out of this. So we are going to... Let's go into September and see what the weather is. Please be better. It's raining. That's a problem. I know there's little in the way of mountains in this direction at the moment, because the mountains are more there. There are some there, so we'll have to be aware of those. That's terrible weather. October? Give me something. There we are. Now we've got weather we can fly around in. Maybe. Oh, and that looks... Oh, we've got a cloud layer that we are now above. And this is the sort of thing that, again, really works for typical weather. But if we were looking at this and doing 50 miles, as I said, 50 miles every 10 minutes, and this keeps transitioning, I think that could be a problem. And I did try it out. Now, the way I tried to get around it was by doing variable duration transitions. But it still sort of shows up. So it isn't the greatest of things. But it does help a little. Let's go ahead and take a picture out here. Oh, that's a very interesting cloud layer that we have. But it does still work. There we go. Typical weather for the region. That is what we have here. And I think it looks great. Let's go down below those. Say I wanted to, again, I could do a different day. 25th of October. And I want it around early hours of the morning. Let's see what we've got. It's raining. I do not want the rain. I'll just pick a different day. 23rd, what do we get? Still rain. It looks like October is a rainy season in Japan. Still rain. Still rain. More rain. Quite cloudy actually. Even more rain and overcast. Not looking great. Let's go into June. Let's see what we got around June. Still rain. There's a lot of rain in Japan. But I guess you are seeing the point here. That's a little. It's drizzle. It's drizzle. It's not the worst. There we go. Maybe that sort of weather is the kind of weather you want to fly in. And it gives you exactly that. Now, why is this better than selecting a preset from Microsoft Flight Simulator's repertoire? Because a preset is not going to give you everything that you want from the weather, so it isn't going to be realistic to the region. That is what this does best. I might use one of these as a thumbnail. That is what this does best. It gives you something representative of the region. Is that Fuji Speedway? It is Fuji Speedway. There it is. Turn 1 right there, all the way around. Good track, very good track. So if I were to, I don't know, fly into maybe Singapore or somewhere, or Malaysia or Indonesia, and I wanted the monsoon season, all I have to do is look up when is the monsoon season in that area, pick it, and I should get rainy weather. If I wanted the driest, hottest conditions I could over here in Japan, I could probably look that up. In fact, why don't I actually look that up now? Just going to do a very quick search for typical weather. So, average monthly weather Japan. Let's have a peek, shall we? So, generally summer is hot and humid, winter is cold with snowfall, spring, March to May, and September to November are mild and pleasant. That is what they say we have in Japan. Cool. Depending on the areas, of course, you have poor weather. So weather in Japan ranges from poor in Kyoto to pleasant in Naha. Kamikawa, it can be down to -5 in February. So this is quite useful. I'm just looking at this. I think that May looks like a pretty decent time to fly. So let's go May 21st. Let's see what we've got. According to average weather, this should be a good time to fly. And you know what? It definitely, well, it's still building up. Definitely looks like it. I can go right early hours of the morning, or just as the sun is going to creep above the horizon. There, let's go for that. And that is the weather we have. We'll wait for its transition. That's really pleasant weather. I'd say that's great flying weather. So I could just say, right, give me a day in May, and this is what we're going to fly around in. I think it's still trying to build some clouds up. So mild drizzle, but otherwise fairly good. I think that's quite impressive. Let's actually go forward a little bit. It's probably going to try and transition again. Just trying to get the right time of day for a reasonable screenshot for this typical weather, because I think this is going to be how we look at it. Maybe not there. We'll have to see. But anyway, that's showing off typical weather in Microsoft Flight Simulator. As I said, it isn't. I'm not going to say that this is the best product of. Still forming? Yep, things are still forming. This is not the best product by Parallel 42, in my opinion. It's reasonable. It has its uses, but certainly I would recommend, if you were to pick a few of these products, I would recommend Flow. Just looking at that entire rainbow right there, I would pick Flow and the Essentials. That is potentially Pro if you need to. Flow and Chase Plane. Those are the two. Those are the two that I would pick out of the three as the most recommended. Now, that is not to say that this is bad. I just think that it has a bit more of a limited use. It's a bit more of a limited use case as opposed to the other two. And that is just how it is. But it is, I say limited use, it is still useful. I can find myself, I think if I want to fly around at a certain time of year, in a certain location, sightseeing, this is probably a fantastic add-on for it. If I want to be flying jets around for hundreds of miles, perhaps not. That might not be the best option. Let's go have a look at what it's like in the evening, shall we? What sort of weather do we get in the evening? Will it be similar? No, it's rain on that day. Let's go to the 19th of May. See what we have. Also rain. So it does get rainy. So there is some rain in that area, but it doesn't seem too. Oh, there we go. We do have rain clouds building up now around where we are. But again, if I did want to fly in this sort of weather, I could. I don't think this is not the greatest day to fly in. Maybe if I wanted to do some IFR flying, I could. This isn't. I don't think that is great weather. In fact, this is bad weather to fly in now. Although earlier in the day, on average, the weather was pretty good. Now, in terms of no GPS position. In terms of frame rates, as it is changing the weather, sometimes there are a few drops in the frame rate. There's not. What's that noise? Not sure. There are some drops in the frame rate, but all in all, it is not too problematic. I think it is quite all right. What is that noise? Not sure. Now, when it changes from things like thunderstorms, I did notice that on my machine I did have a few more stutters that I've not experienced before. So that is something that might need to be considered. So I think if there are lots of clouds that need changing, you might have some issues. Let's go back to early morning. See this sort of weather. Oh, it's a bit of drizzle now. Still, few at 5,800. I am around. What am I around? 5,000 feet. And it's just a few clouds. Broken 10,000. This is lovely weather to fly in my opinion. Guess we could head towards Tokyo if we want. If we head towards Tokyo. But yes, that is, I suppose, all I can really show with typical weather. As I said, it is a powerful tool. It is definitely a powerful tool, but it does have, in my opinion, it does have some limited uses. Great for, again to reiterate, great for low-level VFR, IFR flying in a local area. Maybe possibly useful with flying jets if you want to work with the transitions. Obviously, you would not be able to link this in to something like SimBrief or Beyond ATC, or I'm not sure if Say Intentions does the same thing, where it would route you to a specific runway from what you've got on SimBrief. So you would not be able to do that because, as far as I understand, there isn't a way to get this there is no way to get this weather meteor reports out to SimBrief. If somebody does know a way, please do let me know. So that would be somewhere where you would have a bit of a downside. But aside from that, because it isn't historical weather, because it is not going to vary wildly from day to day, it does mean that you know what sort of weather you can expect when you're flying, unlike Active Sky, so that is its advantage. However, both of them cannot do weather fronts, so there is that. You will just get all the weather changing around you, as you've seen multiple times. Not sure what's just happened there. It's like it's trying to rebuild the weather. As I went into photo mode, it's tried to rebuild the weather. That's interesting. That's very interesting. But yes, so you would not get a weather front, and that was probably a prime example actually of it showing you that the weather just builds up all around you. Let me, for example, let's go to May 17th. Hopefully this is a reasonable weather. It's raining. It's fine. Broken clouds at 5,000. Let's pick a different day. 15th. Haze. Overcast. Rain. Let's see what that weather's like. Sure. We'll do that. So you'll see that it is just building up everywhere. What it's done there is it just built up absolutely everywhere, in every direction, every possible direction. And so unfortunately that is a downside. And I think the only thing that can really do that well is live weather and the 24 hours historical weather that Microsoft Flight Simulator does as default. So that is a shame. Well, that's decent weather during the day. I suppose it makes sense. It would be hazy in the early morning with the humidity and everything starting to pick up. Gets a bit of fog, a bit of mist. That does make perfect sense. But anyway, with that, I'm going to end this video. I think that sort of shows it off relatively well. As I said, I have tried it in a jet, and it just it was, I could see the transitions happening, and I did not see, maybe if I wanted to fly short hops on a jet, it might be nicer to do and easier to use, because you'd get less of a transition in that period. But really, it's the speed that I think catches it out the most. The speed with the transitions. Maybe if there were, possibly, here's an idea, I do not know if it's possible, but if there was a way for this to read the flight plan and prepare the weather up ahead, maybe that would be, in fact, that would be brilliant for this. So there we go, that is typical weather. And just to finish off, once again, my recommendations. Out of the 3 Parallel 42 products that I have reviewed, Chaseplane is a must. Highly recommend Chaseplane. That is a must. Flow, I would recommend the Essentials. Possibly not the Pro version of the tool, but again, have a look at the website for what it offers and whether or not it is useful to you. Same thing for Chaseplane. Do make sure you take a look at what it offers and whether or not it is going to be useful for you. Again, people using VR, it is not compatible at the moment, but also on top of that, I do not see it being all too useful in VR, unless you want to sit in the passenger seat of a plane. Then maybe it will be useful with the wobbling and the turbulence and things like that, so even flying the plane, but I think it's less so for VR. And then for limited use, this product, typical weather. As I said, I can see myself using it, but not not as an everyday thing. I think that live weather in Microsoft Flight Simulator is pretty good. The 24-hour historical weather is pretty good. But maybe when I just want to fly around without either of those, I would definitely... In fact, yes, when I'm flying around without either of those, I would prefer typical weather over Microsoft Flight Simulator's preset weather. So there we go, that is that. Thank you very much for watching. Please remember to click on the like button if you like this video, subscribe to the channel for more videos on Microsoft Flight Simulator. Leave a comment in the comments box below letting me know what you think. Have you purchased a Parallel 42 product? If so, which one? And what are your thoughts upon it? If you want to do so, you can check out my Patreon, Discord and social media. Links to all of them in the description box below. That is all from me, and I shall see you next time in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, where I haven't actually decided what I'm going to do. I'll do something. Make sure you stay tuned for that, and I'll see you then.